Yo, what's good? It's Mastermind MMA, and this video is going to be on more of Dana White's comments from that Kevin Iole interview. That Kevin Iole interview is honestly like the Thanksgiving turkey that you could just eat off the leftovers for a while. So all the headlines that have been coming pretty much in the MMA world are direct from that interview. I haven't gotten a chance to watch that interview whole and full yet, but I definitely plan on it soon when I get a little time. But Dana White came out and he said he vowed to never work with Showtime again. And I'll read you his comments. He said, "Think about this, and I don't give a shit about Showtime. Fucking full of shit press release they put out about Conor Mayweather. He's like, it's the biggest fight ever in combat sports history. They did over 6.7 million buys. And if the service didn't drop, we would have gotten closer to 7 million. It was the biggest event ever. It was the biggest boxing event ever without a boxer. There's only one boxer involved in the fight. I still question the numbers. The way they handled that press release and what they did, I didn't trust them before, and now I despise those fucking guys. The Showtime guys, I'll never work with them again. Ever. I'll never work with Showtime again." That's what Dana White said. Because what Showtime reported is that it was the second biggest pay-per-view fight. They said that it did 4.3 million in pay-per-view buys, just 300,000 short of breaking the record for Mayweather Pacquiao. But Dana White is saying that they did 6.7 million, and they're willing to do 7. And if Showtime didn't fuck up because they didn't know how to stream, they would have did 7 million buys. That is a significant discrepancy, because when you look at the numbers, that's crazy fucking high, and that's a crazy difference. It's not like when you're we kind of messed up the metrics. We reported 4.3, but like 500,000 came in late, so it's, or like 200,000 came in late, so it's really like 4.7. None of that. They're saying it's 4.3, and that's that. But Dana White, and keep in mind, this is Dana White. He definitely has access to the numbers. And if you guys don't know, Steven Espinoza, aka you fucking weasel, Espinoza, you fucking weasel. Dana White and Steven Espinoza have had bad blood for years. If you don't know where it comes from, Steven Espinoza was in the MMA game. Steven Espinoza was heavily involved with Strike Force, and he's one of the main guys for Strike Force. You know what I mean? You got Coker, and then you got Espinoza. Espinoza is on the network level, and Coker was the promoter. So it's almost, it's not equatable to this, but imagine if the UFC was exclusively on Fox, like their pay-per-view, like Fox had a pay-per-view system, and whoever's the head guy of Fox, that'd be what the relationship, like the head guy of Fox and Dana White. This metaphor is falling apart in front of my eyes, but pretty much that relationship is what Coker and Espinoza had. And during the sale, Strike Force was very competitive. The UFC monopolized all of mixed martial arts. You think about it, Pride was coming to America. The Fertittas bought Pride pretty much. And when they bought Pride, what ended up happening is it turns out that the paperwork was messy, so they didn't acquire the fighters. They pretty much they paid millions of dollars for an extensive fight library, which I think kind of was the catalyst for them to do Fight Pass. And when they bought the WEC, and then when they bought Strike Force was the only viable competitor. When you look at it, a lot of the stars and a lot of champions in Strike Force came over and became champions in the UFC. Also, a lot of big names from the UFC went over back in the day when they were like Nick Diaz went over to Strikeforce and shit like that. You got a lot of guys going over to Strikeforce. Robbie Lawler was in Strikeforce. So many fucking guys are in Strikeforce. T Wood almost a Strikeforce champion. So a lot of the Strikeforce guys. And when you look at the heavyweight division, when you look at Strikeforce's heavyweight division in comparison to the UFC's heavyweight division, Strikeforce had Fedor Emelianenko, Fabricio Verdum, Alistair Overeem, Josh Barnett, Daniel Cormier, and that's just me listing off top. There's a time where Strikeforce heavyweight division was killing the UFC's heavyweight division. So Strikeforce is really one of those guys, one of those promotions that was actually on the heels of UFC, and they had people that were marketable stars. Think about it. Strikeforce is the one that brought in Ronda Rousey. Strikeforce is the one who had Chris Cyborg. Strikeforce had Gina Carano. Strikeforce had Misha Tate. And that was exclusively. They exclusively had them. So when you look at it, Strikeforce almost had potential to overtake the UFC. I mean, look at what's going on with Bellator and the UFC now, and look at if Strikeforce was in play. UFC would be in trouble. If the UFC had the Reebok deal while Strikeforce was around, it would have been the demise of the promotion. So, Espinoza, Coker didn't really want to sell. Espinoza, the network was more pushing Coker to sell, but Espinoza had more of the relationship with Coker, and he was more invested in the promotion. But Showtime itself, although Espinoza a high-ranking executive, they wanted to get rid of it. Espinoza and Dana White never saw eye to eye. And the fact that they made Mayweather McGregor happen is nothing short of incredible, especially because of that bad blood, especially because of just like so many things were going against it, but they made it happen. They put their shit aside and made it happen. And the fact that now, when it's all said and done, that they're kind of playing with the numbers, I don't know for what reason, but the only reason I could think of is they don't want to share the credit. They'd rather have the number one thing be something that they did on their own. The number one pay-per-view of all time be something they did without Dana White, rather than a collaborative effort just shitting on everything. So they're getting that money. Bottom line to the corporations, as long as they get that bread, they're okay with it. So they're getting that money. They have that money. Everyone got their checks. Everyone walked away. But when you come to prestige and legacy and egos, I think that's where it plays the game, where they're like, you know what? We know what we did, but we don't have to share the credit with them. So let's just keep it that it fell short and we're still the top dogs. When I found out that they released and said it didn't break the record, I was in shock. I was in awe. And if they really are playing games with the numbers, I don't know how it works, but there were lines in Vegas if it'll break the record or not. People put money and lost money on those lines. People put money and won money on those lines. And, I feel like at that rate, playing with the numbers like that is almost not to the degree, but it's kind of in the same school of fixing fights. Because when you look at it, it's like people are putting money betting on something. But I think because it's prop bets and it's not legitimate betting, I don't know what the rule set is, but because it's prop bets, I believe that kind of falls under the category of prop bets, if it'll break the pay-per-view record or not. But what Dana White says makes a lot more sense. 6.7 million definitely makes sense to me. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like it did. And the fact that the attention it garnered, man, like people that didn't give not one fuck about boxing or MMA sat down and watched this fight. and paid for this fight to have that experience. So I'm taking Dana White's word for this. I know Dana White is a straight up bullshit artist, but like he tells the truth sometimes. So I feel like this is one of those times in the category where he tells the truth. So let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think Dana White is just kind of, I don't know, pissed off for no reason, or do you think him being pissed off has merit and they really lied about the numbers, or you think Dana White's trying to cover because he doesn't want it to look bad? I feel like Dana White's telling the truth in this situation. Let me know what you think below, and you already know it's Mastermind MMA.